I've literally forgotten everything about this episode.
Well.
And Sea Devils. I'm trying to remember. I had speculated it was going to be about, pirates and everything, but it's not at all. Again, because I've been in the last week of the semester and grading and, recording all grades and everything, I literally forgot everything about this episode.
Yeah. Before this episode begins, we should make a special announcement that next week there will not be a new episode of Doctor Who Classic, because when we would normally record the next episode is Christmas Day. So, I guess that does mean we're recording on New Year's Day, but oh well, screw it.
We'll figure something out.
Yeah, it'll be fine. So, yes, next week there won't be a new episode. We will be back in 2 weeks with The Mutants, parts 1 through something. I haven't counted out which ones, how many episodes there are. So, yeah. Hey guys, it's Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films back again with Doctor Who Classic. Last time around, we had the Sea Devils parts 1 through 3. Can you tell me anything of what happened?
I have literally forgotten everything. This week at school was our week of reviewing for the final, then taking the final, and then I had to record the finals and get all my grades put together. So I was looking at this today with the Sea Devils. And I remember thinking last week it might be, maybe about pirates or something during the Elizabethan era. It has nothing to do with that, but I've literally forgotten everything about this.
So, the Doctor and Jo visited the Master in prison.
Okay, that's right.
Yes, and he has taken over the prison completely. And he has this plan to unleash the Sea Devils, or the aquatic cousins of the Silurians.
Okay.
And he's going to unleash them to claim their world, claim the Earth, so that they will destroy the human race, which is what the Master wants, to try to hurt the Doctor. And at the end, there was one Sea Devil that came out of the ocean.
So I was going to say, have we seen the Sea Devils?
Yes.
Okay.
There was one kind of skulking around a bit, and then there was one that came out of the ocean.
That's right. And I think I commented on the fact that we didn't actually see a whole lot of him in the first episode. Very, Hitchcockian. You only see like a bit of a fin or a gill or whatever. But then, right at the end, as the Doctor and Jo were trying to escape down onto the beach, one came out of the water. One.
Yes, one.
The Sea Devil.
Yeah,
Not
so
plural.
We really don't know if they made more than one costume. So yeah, and that was pretty much it. I mean, the Doctor kind of got captured for a little bit, or arrested by the prison. He had a sword fight with the Master, and yeah, that was pretty much it. No unit in this one. No Brigadier. No Benton. No Yates. None of that.
Now, I thought maybe didn't they call or try to call unit or something? Tried to call off the naval base there.
They might have tried, but I don't think they got anywhere. So yeah, none of that in this episode. So. Yeah, you got anything else?
No, I was going to point out for those of you who haven't noticed that I'm wearing my sweater today because last week Alex had to hand me a blanket because it is so dreadfully cold here in the recording room. It's very cold outside. Oklahoma is going through one of those very weird winters where it's 80 degrees one day and 30 degrees the next day.
Yeah. Now that said, the ceiling fan right now is not on high.
I know.
I didn't think about it. I'm tempted. But
I'm prepared.
Yeah. I'm tempted, but honestly, it's not cold in here.
Well, my hands are cold already. So, and I've only been in the room for like 5 minutes.
I guess. So, yeah, that is pretty much it. So we should go ahead and get into the next 3 parts of the Sea Devils. And now that you've mentioned it, I'm going to turn the fan up. Because I know it's going to get warm while I sit here. There we go. That's better.
Keep that blanket handy.
One of the creatures that have been destroying the ships.
You told me it was enemy agents. Why didn't you tell me the truth?
If I had, would you have believed me?
Oh yeah, that was another thing we were a bit confused about. Was he hasn't hypnotized Trenchard. They told him it was enemies.
It's a very World War I thing to do.
No. It's a good thing he has that many layers.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
Is that the microphone in the bottom left-hand corner?
Maybe. Oh, that's a sonic screwdriver.
There's one over there. I have to move round to the right.
And legitimately this time. Man, imagine if I had kept this thing hidden for all this time. Oof. Man, that's like a Tom and Jerry scream. That's crazy.
Kind of hard to run with flippers. Wonder what show they borrowed the submarine set from.
Well.
Nice effect.
No.
Look, it's like this.
Only cheese, I'm afraid. The best the steward could do. Oh, that's super. Thanks very much.
For heaven's sakes, Joe. Do you think this is a picnic? All right. He's developed some way of communicating with them. Probably an ultra-high-frequency sonic beam. It's rather good. Come on.
No, thank you.
Sandwich?
Thank you. Doctor!
I'm so sorry.
Poor Joe.
I can't work if I'm being continually interrupted.
I'm terribly sorry, old chap. I'll leave you to it.
I suspect the worm is about to turn here.
No. Oh, they made more suits. Good for them. Now more people can be cold and wet. And they actually filmed that at night. When it's colder. It sounds like the soundtrack was made with an Atari 2600.
Well, the synthesizer was just becoming popular in the early 70s, so I'm sure this is something along that line.
Well. That guy has never held a gun in his life. Now that guy has used a gun. And he has used a one-handed keyboard.
Got the British Navy in on this? Having to actually use their ships?
Well, I remember one of the episodes at the end, it says they did have help from the Royal Navy. I didn't know they went this far, though. I thought the Royal Navy just, cleared them when they had a tiny boat. I would not want to walk under that thing. Well, I know we didn't say much in that sequence, but it was very impressive.
Yeah. Makes you wonder if the Navy understood how popular the show was.
Maybe.
Decided to give their consent to get a little bit of, good publicity.
Makes me wonder if that's why Unit's not in this episode at all. Is because, we want to show off the Navy.
Yeah.
And we can't do that if we have, Unit and the Brigadier and all these soldiers here, as opposed to all these sailors. So, that could be it.
All right, so the Master was calling the Sea Devils to the castle, but when the Doctor and Hart and all the soldiers got there, the Master and the Sea Devils were gone.
Yes. Presumably, I guess they're going to the Sea Devils base. So, which, presumably now, the Doctor is being taken there. So, yes, it's a little strange. I also question why they don't just kill the Master, unless they realize that he's different from the humans, or maybe it's just, part of the deal or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a slight detriment that they can't talk at all, where the Silurians could.
Yeah.
So...
Now, his little keyboard there, he's obviously communicating with them in some way, but again, like you said, we have no way of knowing what he's saying to them, what they're saying back to him.
Right.
Parliamentary Private Secretary. Any chance of any breakfast?
I'll call the steward, sir.
Excellent. Jolly good. Nothing very elaborate, my dear. Just eggs, bacon, toast, coffee, or a little rough-cut marmalade, if they've got it. How long's he likely to be, Captain Hart?
I don't know, sir.
Well, now,
You know what?
I
You'll
tell
get a
you what,
sandwich
look
and
at
you'll
him
like
in your
it.
jolly old wireless and ask,
If I may ask, sir, what is the purpose of your visit?
why all those ships sinking? I've come down to clear it up for you. Minister's put me in full charge.
A little late for you to be in this story. Well, they talk.
Wouldn't it be better to try for a peace than to launch yourself into a war that you cannot possibly win?
I will consider what you have said.
Well, that's
We
good.
return to the humans, and I will endeavor to make a peace for you.
I'll do better than I did last time.
I've had a look at that unit file about the creatures that your friend the Doctor encountered in those caves. And do you know what happened? Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart blew the whole lot up.
Maybe, but I bet he didn't do it by risking the lives of his own men.
Well, that's as may be, but our line is quite clear. Immediate retaliation with everything that we've got.
I'm sorry, sir, I don't agree.
Where is the Brigadier, and why can't he be making these decisions?
Well, no, it's that girl with my toast.
Wow, this guy is very specifically, like, horrible. He's not inaccurate. He just sucks.
I tried to make peace, but I failed.
See, he admits it. Man is weak. Your conquest will be easy.
Believe me, man is not weak.
If they were,
He's only too
they would have
proficient
won
in
last
fighting
time.
Weapons of annihilation.
I do not think Eli.
Don't touch the hair.
Makes you wonder where their eyes are actually in that costume.
Yeah, I was wondering that too. Unless they did a casting call for people with really long necks.
Like the Cardassians in Deep Space Nine.
Well. Oh, this will go over well. You know, there's probably a reason they saved all this war and peace talk for episode 5. I don't think it's gonna go well.
Are you going to carry out my order, or must I replace you with someone who will?
His eyes are bloodshot, too.
I'm
I don't think they
Sorry,
intended
Jim.
that, but...
No doubt Navy training exercises.
Nah.
The humans will never make peace with you.
That may be the worst part, is the Master's not doing anything to provoke this. Like, they're just attacking. I'm very curious how this will resolve. Because it really just seems like just a copy of the Silurians episode.
I'm going to get onto the Minister, and I'm going to ask him to seek approval for an immediate attack with nuclear weapons.
But that, sir, would be tantamount to murder.
Oh, come, Doctor, you speak as if these creatures are human. We're not going to hand over the world to a lot of lizards, you know.
You can share it with them, surely.
Oh, come, really, Doctor.
Look, let me make one final attempt to negotiate.
Well, you didn't get very far last
How
time, did
far
you?
away are we from the mainland?
Doctor, do you think you're doing the right thing?
I'm doing the only thing possible, Captain Hart, if we're to avoid a major conflict.
Suppose they won't listen.
Alrighty. That's part 5.
Well, it is certainly one of the more action-packed serials that we've watched.
It's interesting, if only infuriating, if only for Walker. Maybe it's because this is like the 8th guy we've watched where it's no, we have to destroy our enemies and stuff like that. It's weird we found like a different, like, you know how we always had like the person in charge of like the base under siege. Now we have person from government who wants to go boom. That's our new type of character that comes in. So, you know, it's just like, I wonder what Russia will think when they launch a nuke only to nuke themselves. Russia's probably sitting over there like, what are they doing? This seems very weird.
Yes.
So...
And again, I doubt the British would launch without consulting the French and the Americans and, everyone else in NATO.
Yeah. Like, it's just very odd. And where, on God's green earth, is the Brigadier to come in? Like, even if, yes, the Brigadier might, push more for attack or militarizing, I feel like he would be a bit more cautious about it, And at the very least, listen to the Doctor. The only reason Walker's listening to the Doctor is just because of his ego.
Yeah.
Oh, good job.
In the face again.
I wonder if some of these are actual sailors.
Probably. Might as well just, if they're not on active duty, they can fill in. A lot of those epics like Ten Commandments, things like that, they were actually filmed like in Spain, and they got members of the Spanish army to fill in as the extras.
I'm just imagining all these sailors being told, all right, now you're going to be put into this room by these guys.
Equipment not hooked up to anything.
It's just some spares.
Don't you think we ought to leave these things to the Doctor? He said we ought to cooperate.
Talk it underneath a bit.
Look, he's not going to try and trick them, is he? Shh. That's it. This could have the most dreadful consequences.
Would you just shut up already?
He may...
I guess it makes sense that people that sit behind a desk aren't really good when there's actual combat.
Unusual way of lifting her up.
Well,
Should have done the, foot lift.
well.
Come out to the coast. Go to a party. Have a few laughs.
Now I just gotta hope that her stealth mode suit holds up. If only she had that brick. Then she could bust through here.
Oh. Damn that bad peripheral vision.
Yeah. I mean, clearly Joe is in stealth mode with that outfit. Oh, come on, man. This guy sucks.
Oh, the hovercraft. Haven't we seen that one before? Wasn't there one?
Oh, not this one. Does Joe know how to drive this?
Call out the Marines.
Hooray for the Marines. I guess we do have to resolve this plot, like, right now. Yeah, this thing seems like a nightmare to try to control.
Right, I stay with this bloke.
Yeah, do that. I'll watch him.
Oh, he's getting hypnotized.
There's been a mistake. Understand? Mistake.
I mean, obviously the Master was going to do that. Huh?
Anti-aircraft.
Now it's anti-lizard. Oh, thank God these things are here.
Jet skis.
Oh, we're gonna have a jet ski chase?
Apparently we are.
Ah, perfect. Thank God for whoever left these things here.
Oh, getting his nice leather boots all wet.
Well,
This is very reminiscent of James Bond.
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if this is after Sean Connery and into Roger Moore, But there was a speedboat chase in Live and Let Die, if I recall correctly.
That is 100% not the two of them. Especially the Master. Like, you can kind of fake the Doctor with just a wig, but... it's the giant mound of cheese.
Perhaps you'll admit I was right all along. Massive nuclear strike, it's the only way.
Bruh.
We know what's happened to the Doctor.
I'm your enemy. Bob, I saved Baker. I helped you.
How have you not learned this lesson?
Every time.
You see, before you reactivated it, I reversed the polarity of the neutron flow.
Haha.
See? Come on.
Then why haven't you been using that for 3 seasons?
Oh, thank you, my dear. Aha. Smoked salmon. Delicious.
It'd be hilarious if she laced it with poison.
Floating suits.
No.
What if that was part of his Navy, his military training before he became an actor?
Maybe. Is that actually both of them?
It looks like it.
Wow.
Of course, they're probably very close to the shore.
Yeah. It's just in a very large pool.
No, they're probably actually out there in the water.
Well, if the hovercraft is there, then yeah.
He's dead.
We were too late. The doctor and the hovercraft said so.
Doctor? What doctor?
Ah. Wow, that was quick.
I must obey.
Well, bye.
With all of those ships there, they can catch him very, very quickly.
You could just shoot the thing. It probably starts flying in the air until it eventually crashes. Alrighty. That was the Sea Devils.
Again, certainly one of the more adventure-packed serials. All 6 episodes, really. Enjoyable, if not, totally believable.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, after all of these years, how does the Master not understand that the Doctor is going to booby-trap it?
Yeah. Well, and the fact that he doesn't... He always thinks that these... whatever species he's helping will be kind to him. It never really works, though. It never really works. That's probably why, in modern Doctor Who, especially recently, there have been a lot of episodes where the Master, creates their own Cybermen, basically. That's probably why, so that the Cybermen don't turn on him. They're his Cybermen. So... See,
anyway.
Yeah. Now, the biggest thing about this episode is that, apart from the setting, it's just the Silurians again. Yeah. Except, different setting and basically just different characters. Instead of UNIT, we have the Navy. And that's great and all. It almost makes me wonder if maybe they were approached by the Navy to make an episode. And so it's like, okay, so what would we do with the Navy? Why would we need, why would the Doctor need them, especially instead of UNIT? And it's like, okay, so there's got to be some sort of creatures coming out from the sea. And they were like, okay, well, where do these creatures come from? Maybe they're the Silurians,
I suspect, though, that, again, with the Ian Fleming connection, I think someone told us that Ian Fleming and John Pertwee were friends, or knew each other, acquaintances at least, that perhaps Pertwee was in the naval intelligence, and again, they were just, kind of tapping into that. And yeah, it is, I don't want to say it's a complete retread of the Silurians, but I mean, obviously it is based on that. But again, the last time it was really just the Doctor against the Silurians, and then there was some underground atomic base or something like that. In this instance, they said, well, we've got an opportunity to show off what the Navy can do. This is still during the Vietnam War, so maybe it was just a way to show that the Navy is still very popular and can still do very constructive things.
Yeah.
And basically showing that it's the administration, and again, I don't remember who the Prime Minister was, but, these bureaucratic types, get me some tea and toast and let's blow up the enemy. Just basically kind of poking a pin into their bubble and saying, these guys are the idiots. It's the servicemen who are doing the real job.
Yeah, that's true. Because, I guess with the last Silurian episode, the whole thing was also sort of a conflict between... there was also, like, the... whoever was working at the nuclear base and stuff like that. But there was also just the differences between the Doctor and the Brigadier. And that was sort of the main thing, where the Brigadier was pretty much doing what he was trained to do, which is be a soldier, whereas the Doctor was trying to work out a peace. Whereas this time, it's not the Doctor and Captain Hart. The Captain Hart, even though he finds a lot of this hard to believe, he does still listen to the Doctor and, will do what he needs to, basically. Yeah. Whereas it was Walker who came in and was like, let's blow them up. They're sentient, but they're not human. Whatever, it doesn't matter. They're not like us now. Where's my toast? Yeah. So,
now again, what distinguishes Walker from all of these other, men in charge, is the fact that he's just so nonchalant about it. He's not the raving lunatic.
Yeah.
He just says, this is what we do. Let's order up the nuclear strike, and by the way, I'll have my eggs over easy, sort of thing. So that's a refreshing change. It's kind of like the Cybermen, the invasion of the Cybermen, where the guy who was cooperating with them, I can never remember his name, but he...
I want to say it was Tobias something.
Yeah. But he was, he was just very nonchalant about it. He said, look, you guys do this, I'll do this, and, if we cooperate, we'll win. And this guy's just there saying, look, I'm in charge. You guys have nothing to say about it. Here's what we're going to do, and I'll have my breakfast now. And I like you said, I wanted Blythe, the naval officer woman there, to, spit in his coffee or something, just to do something, or pour it out on his lap or something, just to say, you need to understand, I'm not a flunky. I am a naval officer. You do not treat me like this. Yeah. I'm really surprised that there was nothing in that episode that allowed them to say, we don't care who you are, sir. You don't treat Navy officers this way.
Yeah. Well, and I also feel like maybe a difference of companions as well, that if we still had Liz instead of Joe, I feel like this guy would have been slapped at some point. Yeah. Like Liz felt like the companion who would slap, this figure of authority,
And throughout the entire thing here, what I kept thinking, and of course I'll know it would never happen, is Hart and Blythe would make two really good companions.
Yeah.
All right. Now that they have military background, but they are both, again, very useful in the Ian and Barbara mold. Yeah. So that would have been cool to have them in future adventures.
Yeah. That is sort of the thing. We're sort of in a limbo of companions right now, where it's like, well, yes, we have Joe as our sort of main companion, but there is incredible amounts of debate whether or not, like, the Brigadier counts as a companion.
Yeah.
I say he does, honestly, but that's because it's a very different circumstance right now. Yeah. It's like, yes, he is a companion, and I'd probably consider Benton and Yates to be companions as well, because they are with the Doctor, the most. Yeah. So I don't know. There's a lot of debate just with UNIT in general, like around, when does this take place and all that stuff. But honestly, yeah, I would consider the three of them to also be companions as much as Joe.
Yeah.
So that's the thing, is that with Hart and Blythe, like you could count, like you could bring them on as companions, but until the TARDIS, gets back up and running, you'd really have to make an excuse for why they're here, you know? Unless they were the Navy portion of UNIT, which could be interesting if they did that, if UNIT started expanding a bit.
Yeah.
So,
because most of UNIT at this point just seems to be Army.
Yeah. So, But we also have gone, was it 10 episodes now? 10 parts without any of Unit. Because all 6 episodes, nothing in here, and then nothing in Curse of Peladon. So I'm very curious as to what the change was, you know?
Yeah.
Now, granted, we did go through Day of the Daleks and Curse of Peladon without the Master as well. So, yeah, I don't know. It's also one of those things like, well, we could slip back into that formula from Season 8 where it's, you know, the Master is doing something else next episode, but I don't know. They might not do that.
Yeah. I just had a thought that the Master is beginning to me, again, because I've done this genre of theater, he's beginning to look like a melodrama villain. You know, the curse is foiled again, you know, Snidely Whiplash, twirling his mustache, because everything he does has a fatal flaw in it. You know? And he can't get past his own ego or his own self-confidence or whatever to understand that the Doctor is never going to go along with him. Every chance the Doctor gets to thwart him, he will. And again, the Doctor... I think the Doctor understands the Master way more than the Master understands the Doctor. And there at the end, he didn't seem to catch on immediately that the Doctor was faking the heart attack or whatever. And, you know, he should literally never trust him under any circumstance.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it also reminds me, later on with Capaldi, when they bring in the Master, one of the big things, you know, I mentioned the Master sort of creates their own Cybermen. And basically, at the time, she creates this whole Cyberman army. And it's like, now I want to give this to you, Doctor. And, you know, you can use this army however you want. And it's one of those things of, like, you just... Like, I get it. It's the whole, you know, tempting in that case to her side. Or, you know, the Doctor could use this Cyberman army to, you know, bring peace around the universe and stuff like that. And the Doctor finally remembers, because that was his first season. He was going through this whole thing of, you know, who am I now? And he finally realizes... No, I'm not going to take this army because I'm not a soldier or anything like that. I'm an idiot with a screwdriver and a box. I'm not going to take your army, you know? So, but it's just the thing that the Master would think that the Doctor might do that. Yeah. So it's honestly one of those things looking through everything with the Master of like, I almost feel like this villain shouldn't work, you know? Now, granted, you can also look at some of the other, I guess, sort of our big 3 of Doctor Who villains, the Daleks, the Cybermen, and the Master. And they're all very samey, and they stay very samey. But yet they still endure after all this time.
Again, in the Daleks, that is understandable. You know, they are created as destroying machines. Yeah. They have no empathy. You know, that's the fact that they have fatal flaws is because they cannot comprehend illogical, and I think the Cybermen are very similar. But the Master is a Time Lord, even though he's like the Doctor, he's an escapee, whatever. He should, at some point, be able to figure out, I can't trust the Doctor, and the Doctor should say, I can't trust the Master. No matter what happens, you always have to look at the bad side.
Yeah, but then I suppose you could sort of get into the reason they try to trust each other is because they were friends, you know. They get more into that in the modern era too, where it's like, you know, they grew up together. There's one moment where they reminisce, like, oh, do you remember when we used to play in my father's fields on Gallifrey and stuff like that? And so it's like that's sort of the one thing. It's like, and especially in the modern era when it's like, you know, most of the Time Lords are gone or something like that, and it's like, this is the last person basically who's even slightly like me.
Yeah.
And they even kind of go through, and for anyone worried that I'm spoiling all of modern Doctor Who for Dad, if we ever get there, he's not going to remember, so it's okay.
I didn't remember last week's 3 episodes.
Exactly, so there you go. But they actually go through, in one season, they go through an arc where it seems like they're building towards almost redeeming the Master and making her, at the time, a good guy. And then it doesn't quite go through, and then a couple seasons later, they bring in a new Master, he's back to his old tricks and stuff like that. And it's like, yes, but you can never redeem the Master, just as you can never trust the Master can never trust the Doctor. But boy, if they try that, they keep trying.
It seems to me that, and maybe this is what they were trying for, and it's not quite there yet, it may get there in later episodes, is that instead of being protagonist and antagonist, instead of being enemies, they should be like chess players. All right?
Yeah.
One wins one time, one wins the next time. Sometimes it's a draw, but it's never with a specific malicious intent. You know, I understand the Master's overriding motivation is he has to somehow beat the Doctor, but he's going about, destroying the Earth because he thinks that's what will hurt the Doctor most, or ruling a galaxy, or doing. It's just the attempts get so overcomplicated that they're so obvious. They should be obvious even to the Master that this isn't going to work, because every time he's tried to trust one of these species, they all turn against him. Every time he tries to trust the Doctor somehow manages to turn against him. So it's just, he doesn't seem to learn from his mistakes. And I think, rather than that, if they had simply said, "Good one, you won this time, Doctor, I'll see you later,"
yeah,
that would have worked a little bit better.
I guess because you could also argue, maybe even if he thinks like, well, if the Sea Devils turn on me, he's almost never truly worried that something will happen to him, Now, granted, in this last episode, when they had to escape the thing before the thing exploded, he was a bit worried. It's like, well, this thing could kill both of us. And the Doctor's like, well, yes, but only if we can't escape from here. So, and then they go and do that. But maybe he's thinking that, honestly, he might be thinking low risk, high reward with every species he teams up with. Like the only thing I could think where it'd be more of a high risk would be if he teamed up with like the Daleks, which would be interesting. I actually don't know if they've ever done that. But that would be very interesting. So it almost feels like with the Master, you have the Daleks and, they're sort of our Nazi allegory and everything. And they have all of that and their destruction and everything. That's what makes them such a threat. The Cybermen is like that, but they also add that conversion and stuff, similar to the Borg even. But with the Master, especially when you add in the whole thing of them being childhood friends, it almost seems like this is just their old childhood competitions that have kept going for the past 500 years until now. They're two ridiculous adults, and the conflicts are getting much grander in scale. Yeah. But they're as ridiculous as when they used to play on the school grounds on Gallifrey. So.
And just the Master says, "I'm going to blow up the school."
Yeah,
it's getting to that point. I think the thing that keeps this going is Roger Delgado.
Yes.
And John Pertwee. They are so interesting together that it's in our best interest to forgive the massive plot holes that keep popping up here. So I'm sure that's why they kept bringing him back. Roger Delgado is he's spectacular.
Yeah. It is one of those things where it's like, these plots probably shouldn't work as well as they do. But even like when we were going through season 8, honestly, that's kind of been my favorite season for a little while. Yet it's been this sort of repetitive, like, the Master shows up, he has this plan with this species, it doesn't work, he gets away, I'll get you next time, And that was the same plot the entire season through 5 different stories, and now we have it here again. And the only reason I may, not like this as much as those others is just because, it's the Silurians and everything, but everything around him is still really good because he's really good, Even when it's like, yes, I have this ridiculous plan to summon a demon using cult powers, and then it will destroy the world, or give me power and I'll destroy the world and stuff. And it's like, that sounds like the dumbest thing in the world. But if he doesn't sell it, that's the thing. So I was worried we wouldn't have much to talk about, but nope.
We just spent 20 minutes and haven't even got through the first couple of notes.
Yeah, so this is a good discussion before our Christmas break. So, let's see. Well, the Doctor, without a doubt, 100%, finally used the sonic screwdriver.
Yes.
Which, I don't know if he's used it in previous episodes, like if he used a device that was sort of like that, but it was definitely this thing, specifically.
Yeah.
And if you remember, I hid this sonic screwdriver for a while until he kind of used it with that garage door opener. And that's because pretty much just before we started on this era, I bought this. And it's a good thing I decided to bring it out when I did, because otherwise today would have been the day that I finally been like, yes, I've had this all along. So, yeah. It's all nice and good. So
Need to do that closer to the microphone so that they can hear it.
I think they could hear it. If I put this right in their ears, that probably sounded awful. So, anyway. Oh, by the way, the other episode, we mentioned the 13th Doctors,
yes.
And it actually does have power.
Oh.
For some reason, right when I was going to show it to you, it just lost all its power. But
Now, does this one not have... Well, again...
Up there. Okay. Yes, if you hit this button, it does work. And then I think... Does that sound? And then if you hit it 3 times... There we go. Alright. So, they all have secret hidden sounds, except this one. This one, the speaker died after a week, which is unfortunate, but oh well. It still lights up, and it's still nice. This one is Eccleston and Tennant's sonic screwdriver. So this one, 9 and 10. This one is 13. We've got the 3rd Doctor, the War Doctor, the 11th Doctor, and the 12th Doctor. And I've just stopped bothering to put out the sunglasses anymore, so... But anyway. Let's see. I kind of forgot Trenchard died, like, really early in this one.
Well, when he finally realized that the Master's plan was not what it was supposed to be, that's when the patriotism took over, and as I said, the worm looked like it was turning, and it did for 2 minutes, and then he got killed.
Yeah, which I guess he's very similar to Walker in that regard of he's doing this for Queen and country and everything, but yeah. So that was the thing, was that the Master told him it was enemy spies that we were trying to defeat, but instead it was ocean lizards, and he was not prepared for that. Yeah. So
yeah, and again, I gotta say the masks for the Sea Devil, the Silurians, very interesting. The only thing is, although their mouths were moving, which was cool, I wish that they had some way to make the eyes blink or move.
Yeah.
Because just having the solid face and not moving kind of detracted a little bit.
Yeah. So, well, we did have the dive that the Doctor did with the fabulous help of the British Navy. So, that was interesting. And yeah, I know they said like, oh yes, well, we had help from the Royal Navy and stuff, but this was going even further and actually using their ships and their sailors and everything. So that was pretty cool. I'm very curious who approached who about that, though. I mean, I don't want to assume that the British Navy was like, we want to be in Doctor Who, because it seems like they have better things to do, But
again, that's a massive recruiting tool.
Yeah.
When you've got kids who now have been watching Doctor Who for, this is the 8th season?
This is 9th.
9th season. All right, so if these kids were 12 years old when it started, and they've been watching for 9 years, they're at an age where they're thinking, what do I want to do with my life? And if they see the Royal Navy on Doctor Who, that's a huge inducement to say, you know what, let me sign up and I'll give my 2 years or 4 years or whatever the term was to the Royal Navy. And I mean, it's a great thing to do.
Yeah.
Especially because... unlike in some other things, like in the Superman movie, the Christopher Reeve movie, they made the army look like a bunch of idiots in there because, Lex Luthor took them over. But in this one, the only person who looks bad is Walker, who's the parliamentary private secretary. But the Navy people in this look really, really good. So, I mean, that's got to be huge for recruitment.
Right, because I was going to say, it's like, oh, yes, join the Navy where you will be killed by lizard people. But honestly, like with only like a couple like at the end in that last battle, which you kind of have to do that at some like someone the Marines, the Navy, they're not perfect. Like, yes, if there are lizard people, maybe one or two of them die. Things happen in war. But yeah, for the most part, it really was just Walker. Like everything, just from all the sailors that were there, and even Captain Hart and Blythe, like they all did. They were all portrayed very well.
Yeah,
so.
And the submarine people too.
Yeah. So that's probably why Unit wasn't here. We can't have those, Army soldiers getting in the way of, this brilliant advertising for the Royal Navy. So, well, we had the Doctor trying to start a peace negotiation, but that fell through. It's interesting that it's like, oh, yes, well, that fell through because the last one, didn't go so well when the Brigadier pretty much blew them up. And it's interesting because there's a what episode is it? It's an 11th Doctor episode. I got confused for a second. But there's an 11th Doctor episode where they meet up with the Silurians again, and they do reference that, and it's another one of those, yes, we're trying to, achieve peace and stuff, and it all starts falling through. One of the humans kills a Silurian, and so everything falls through, but it doesn't completely fall through, and the Doctor basically, like, all the Silurians go back into hibernation, and the Doctor says, okay, I'm gonna put my foot down on this one, and, alright, they're going to go to sleep for 1,000 years. Humans, you have 1,000 years to get it together so that I don't have to do this again, so that it doesn't fall through again. Get on that, so.
Now, and I realize the Silurians are not specifically militaristic, but one thing that might have helped, in my opinion, again, if I were the director, I would have said, can we have some kind of insignia for the Sea Devil leader? Just either whether it's a pendant or something that he could wear on his head, because they all looked exactly alike.
Yeah.
And you never could tell who was in charge until the one spoke up and said, I'm in charge, basically. So that's just a minor issue, but again, the overall design of the lizards, very, very good. Not frightening, but certainly very creepy.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's interesting how they got that right in the Sensorites all the way back in season 1, where, it's like, oh, here's the leader. He has, 2 sashes. Well, then the first, second in command, he only has 1. After that, you don't really need to, know too much. And it's like, that worked out, because immediately it's like, here's the leader. Good. We know who that is. And it's interesting that they've just never done that again since that episode of distinguishing them. Which you could even say that for, like, even the Dalek episodes. I guess the Cybermen do kind of do that, where it's like the head is a bit different, like they're a bit taller. So the Cybermen are the only other ones where you can distinguish them. So, let's see. Well, and again, we had Walker coming in and immediately attack and get me some eggs, So, I mean, it's interesting sort of bring that in, because that's the thing, is with the Silurian story, that was pretty much throughout the whole episode of like, okay, so how do we, what do we do? Do we attack? Do we try to make peace and all of that? And that was a continuing thing through that episode. Whereas this one, episode 5 of 6, dude walks in, like Walter Peck in Ghostbusters, shut this whole place down. And then just immediately goes in, isn't listening to anything. We should just go and attack. Why is it that the British government, they just have all of these guys that can just go in and within 10 minutes is like, yes, well, we should have a nuclear strike. It's like, I feel like there should be 2 people to make that decision, or maybe someone like is like, yes, we want to send a nuclear strike. On the other line, it's like, what are you talking about? Like, let's stop and think about that for a sec. And it's very strange how they keep portraying or at least some officials from the British government like that, But it's kind of like I said, where it's like, well, yes, this guy who is normally behind a desk, now welcome to war. And it's a very different situation once they start attacking.
And again, if we're going to do that, as we have said, more than dozens of times, probably now getting into the hundreds of times, one or two lines in the script to say, I'm here on the request of the Prime Minister or the War Department or Defense Department, I'm not sure what they're calling it at this point, and said, I have been told that the options are we try to negotiate, and if negotiations fail, then we're authorized to give them a nuclear strike. Just something that would explain, rather than just jumping in and saying, I'm here, get me some breakfast, and let's blow the lizards up.
Yeah, like, I guess there's the whole thing of there's precedent for it, because the last time lizards showed up, the Brigadier blew them up, but that was a very, very different situation and everything, and it wasn't
doesn't even know who it is yet, does he? They haven't explained who it is yet when he comes out.
I don't recall, but he brings up the Brigadier specifically, where it's like, well, yes, well, the last time these things were here, Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart, blew them all up, so that sets a precedent for what to do with lizard people.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, but he walks in and immediately is like, we're going to war, and it's like, well, take it easy, man. You're trying to avoid that at all costs, I feel like, because that's the whole thing when he brings up like, oh, we must defeat our Queen's enemies and stuff like that. It's like, well, maybe the Queen might say, okay, talk to them first. You can, even if you don't think it'll work, try that.
Yeah. That all goes back, though, to, the idea behind a democracy's military is that the President of the United States, and I'm assuming the Prime Minister, are the commanders-in-chief of the Army. You must have civilian control of the Army. But again, this guy was not a minister himself. He was a parliamentary private secretary. And so I don't know if that is like an assistant or an undersecretary to the defense, the Secretary of Defense or whatever. But it just seemed like he did not have the position, the authority to order that kind of a strike without having, like you said, somebody higher up saying, yes, go ahead and push the button.
Yeah, like I feel like there needs to be like 10,000 phone calls and a bunch of paperwork before a nuke can be launched, and especially too, just a nuke down to, okay, so who's turning the keys, who's actually hitting the fire button. You're just saying this, but I feel like there has to be a process to launch a nuke, even whatever you said, a low-level nuke or whatever. Like, there has to be a process. It felt like, okay, as soon as I, finish with my milk and toast, they'll be dead. Like, well, take it easy, Granted, half of that could be just, accelerated for time for a TV show. But I don't know.
But again, just one or two lines to say, I'm here on the authorization of the Secretary of Defense or the Minister of Defense. We've already had this discussion, and here's what we've come up with. Here's how Lethbridge Stewart dealt with them before. So we're to the point where if it comes to this is our next step. I mean, just anything that would help us so that, and I realize we're 50 years later, but I think if we had been sitting around 50 years ago watching this going, wait a minute, how does this guy have the authority to launch a nuclear strike that close to Great Britain?
Yeah. He has the authority of plot armor, I guess. So, let's see. Well, to quickly go through some of the other stuff, we had the hovercraft, which was interesting. An interesting method of transportation. So, I mean, it's one of those things, I'm sure, obviously, this thing had to be used, Maybe that's also part of the Royal Navy's pitch to young people. It's like, well, look at this cool hovercraft you can go in. But it was also interesting where it's like, okay, you have to, get off the water, into the beach, get out of the hovercraft, and, you have to get to work. But it doesn't show up like this. It always shows up like this. And drifts, has a little bit of Tokyo drift for like 5 miles before it stops. And it's like, this doesn't seem like the greatest thing, but I mean, I don't know.
Well, the hovercraft was certainly a massive step up from the landing craft of World War II.
Yeah.
Which you'll remember that, like at the on the beaches at Normandy, these things stopped much further out. Many of them didn't even get to the beach. When they opened up, they began to sink because they were too far out.
Yeah.
And the soldiers had to struggle through the water before they could even get to the beach. So, but again, like you said, there are drawbacks to them in the fact that you cannot control them as well as you would like.
Yeah.
But again, once they landed and opened that front hatch, the Marines started pouring out, or whoever they were, the special forces, and immediately took out that contingent of lizards there on the beach. So
right. So it's just a minor nitpick, and it's specifically, it's not of this episode, it's just of the Navy. I'm just nitpicking the Navy now, but that's just what we do here. So, and then we had the jet ski chase, which was interesting. I noticed, though, when they had like a front shot with the master, that guy was doing everything he could not to show his face, because that is obviously not Roger Delgado.
Now, we were joking that those are jet ski-doo things. I would imagine what those actually were probably rescue craft, something that the Coast Guard, or what we would call the Coast Guard here in the United States, just something that would very quickly be able to go out and grab somebody out of the sea. But again, the first thing that we had is, why were they there? We'd never seen them before.
Yeah.
And they just seemed to conveniently be there for this specific chase. But, again, back in 1971, 72, whenever this was, that would have probably been very exciting for the kids to watch.
Yeah, so... well, then sort of the last thing is reversing the polarity of the neutron flow, which is interesting that kind of becomes his catchphrase. They just keep writing that in. It's like, I like how, you go over to Star Trek and they have smart people, basically, where it's like, okay, well, we need to write this thing. Now, how do you do that scientifically? And they're like, okay, well, you do this, this, and this, and they write it out, and it's like, okay, we can work that into the script. We've got our, technobabble and everything. Then you move over to Doctor Who, and it's like, all right, John, we need you to say to reverse the polarity of the neutron flow. It's like, this is the 18th time I've said that. It's just like it's an end all for the third Doctor.
What would have been fun is if Pertwee had said that, and Delgado had said, "You've done this to me before, Doctor," and immediately goes up and switches what the Doctor has done. And then after they've been thrown into the brig, the Doctor says, "Oh, by the way, I figured you would reverse the polarity, so it was actually the real polarity, and when you plugged it in, you reversed it." Something that would have made it a little bit more fun.
Yeah.
And not quite so predictable.
Yeah. They have done that before, where, like, this is a hard scene to set up, but the Doctor is in a standoff with a wooden Cyberman, and the sonic screwdriver doesn't work on wood. So he says, but he bluffs him and says, "Well, I've reversed your gun, so it'll aim back at you." And the Cyberman basically says, "Well, then I'll reverse it back to shoot at you." But obviously the Doctor didn't do anything, so it reversed back to him and shot him anyway. So that was a weird scene the more I think about it. There was a wooden Cyberman. So
was he called Pinocchio?
I don't know. It was, but the only reason they did that was because the Cybermen knew that the sonic screwdriver doesn't work on wood. It's the one thing it doesn't work on. And then we had the escape and everything, and the explosion in the water, which was interesting. And honestly, we talk about like, oh, you're just going in and doing all these attacks, and you should wait and talk about it. But at the same time, it was fun watching the Navy do their thing. So there was at least that, part of the advertising campaign for the Navy, a 6-week advertising campaign for the Navy. But yeah, that's basically all I've got. You got anything else?
Nothing else.
All right. Well, as a reminder, there won't be a Doctor Who episode next week. We'll be back in 2 weeks with The Mutants. How long is The Mutants? Let's see, part 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6.
Right,
it's another 6-parter. So
Time Lords send the Doctor to a sky base above the planet Solos in the 30th century. Okay.
So, yeah, we'll be back to that, and by the time we are back to that, even though, when is this episode going? This episode is probably going up on January 3rd, maybe?
Really?
Yes.
That's 3 weeks from now?
Maybe. Hold on.
Sure it's not December, whatever, 27th?
Well, let's see. So today's the 18th. So this would go up to early access, though, on the 27th.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. This goes up to early access on the 27th, meaning that this goes up
January 3rd.
On January 3rd. So it's already the new year. Wow.
Well, happy 2022.
Happy 2022. Maybe it'll be better. Probably not. But yeah, it's kind of weird because we're sitting here like, oh, well, there won't be a new episode next week because of Christmas. And it's already 2022. And by the time you guys are watching this, we'll have already recorded the next episode in 2022 because it'll be January 1st already. So
that's a little bit of wibbly wobbly timey wimey stuff.
Yeah, it's fun how we do these ahead of time. So yeah, but that is basically it. With all that being said, we're Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films, and we will see you guys next time. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. There's a bunch of links on screen if you want to go click around to any of those. There's a playlist for all of our Doctor Who classic reactions, as well as another playlist to something Doctor Who related. I'm not sure what. There's also a subscribe button and a Patreon button on screen, as well as other links in the description if you want to go check out any of those. See you guys later.